What's up, guys? Welcome to Wholesale Treasure Box Podcast. This is actually our very first podcast. Today we have with us Trey Hughes. Trey flew all the way out here from Virginia to do this podcast. For those of you who are first-time listeners, this podcast is geared for people new to real estate. So we're going to say very surface level and just touch base on how Trey got started in his real estate career and how he obtained his first student rental properties using the VA loan, as well as a little bit of credit card hacking. So, Trey, tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate.
Okay, yeah. So, again, thanks, Josh, for having me out on the podcast today, especially being one of the, first ones out here to work with you on the website. That's awesome. And I'm glad to teach everybody that I can about what I do. Obviously, like you said, we're all beginners here, and I think that's a really good thing that you're doing because you're going to teach a lot of people that, anybody could get into it, and the people can actually look at somebody who's actually really close to them and experience before, really judging the fact that they're always looking at somebody who's been in it for 10 years and making millions of dollars. But yeah, to answer your question, how I got into real estate was actually just through some, simple Google research back when I was 18 years old. And I came across a thing called wholesaling. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I didn't really question it because it made a lot of sense at the time. And I was 18 years old. And at this point, I was always looking for ways to make money. So I didn't question it. And I kind of just went out of my way to find the nearest real estate group. And when I did that, I found somebody that was a part of the panel on that real estate group that met up every month. And I went straight up to him and I asked him, I said, hey, I don't know anything about real estate, and I honestly can't really, give you much, but I can be like an assistant. Would you mentor me? And he didn't really just give me a yes right there. He just gave me his email. And after that, I followed up with him, so much in the next 2 weeks that he finally gave me that chance to work with him. And after that, I kind of spent the next 6 to 8 months learning about, the investing world.
So you just walked right up to him knowing you didn't have anything to give back, and you said, hey, man, I want to learn.
Yeah, I walked straight up to him. I asked everybody in the auditorium that we were in. I asked who was the best, and they all pointed me to him. He was like 25 years old, and he was making a couple $1 million, a year, I think it was. So who better to go to than the top dog, and what more do I have to lose? I have nothing at that point, really. So the worst that's going to happen is somebody says no, maybe even fuck you, Right. But it's not really a big deal to just ask for help. A lot of people don't get anything just because they don't ask. So I simply just did what I could to get my foot in the door, and it worked. And it wasn't like I just asked and he gave me that chance. I really did email him every day. He didn't respond. And then when he did respond, he gave me a task to fulfill to see if I at least did my own due diligence on the market and figuring out what to do. And yeah. So
you were asking him for help regarding wholesaling?
Yes, I asked him how to get into wholesaling because he was actually a flipper at the time. I know he had done wholesale deals. He had rentals. He did it kind of all. I think he started in wholesaling, but everybody knew he knew what he was doing, and he had wholesalers that worked with him as well. So that's how, I knew I can learn more just by getting in with him and his group, And so when I did that, I got to work along his assistant who did all the wholesaling part. He did the analytics, he did the cold calls, he did the emailing, he did it all, and that's where I actually learned the majority of how to analyze properties. Okay. And that was about 6 to 8 months, and I didn't make a dime in that whole 8 months.
So why wholesaling in the first place? Was it like a money thing? Did it seem interesting to you? Why'd you want to do that?
Because wholesaling is a field in real estate where you can get into it with absolutely no money. You can be anybody. You can be, you could have just got laid off. You could have the worst credit. You could have no credit. You could have no money. You could be 100 to 200,000 in debt. You could be, pretty much a bum on the streets. It doesn't matter. As long as you put in the work, you learn, you could go to the local library and learn everything you need to know about wholesaling. And if you do that, you can make serious money. The harder you work in the field, the more money you make. So if you're a hard worker, wholesaling is great because they're one of the hardest workers in real estate, I think. It's more of a grind because you don't need money. There's always an offset. So that's what got me intrigued, is the fact I didn't need money to buy real estate. I could just sell it. I didn't need a license. I can just go out there, look for properties that were beat up, and I can get those under contract and then give them to an investor somewhere out there who is willing to take it. And I already knew that I was a good salesperson, so I knew how to talk to people. So I said, you know what, this is something I can do. At the time I was working at Champs, Sports. It's pretty much like a Foot Locker, and I was also playing blackjack on the side, doing card counting. But I never really saved my money, so I wasn't really good with it.
Okay. So for those of you who are familiar with wholesaling or just real estate investing in general, I'm sure you've heard 1,000 times that your network is your net worth. And what that means is the more people you know, the better chances you have of being successful. So, scaling and growing your business, it's crucial to have a solid network in order to do that. So tell us a little bit how you grew your network, by going to meetings and stuff like that. How did you grow your network?
Growing my network, well, like I said, in that first 6 to 8 months, I didn't do much networking at all besides calling 100 people, a week. And that's not a lot at all. No, not at all. 100 people a week, I thought I was, working. No. But that's the only networking I was doing at the time. And like I said, that 6 to 8 months, it was a good learning experience for how to analyze property, but I don't think they taught me well with what to actually do, which is why soon after that I joined the military. And when I got out of the military, that's when my networking skills had greatly, improved, because I was really about making a change to make financial freedom. So I learned a lot more just by actually taking the time to, actually read books about it, and I actually had the mentor. I met another guy at another real estate meeting who taught me pretty much everything I needed to know to get into it. And when that happened, networking, wow, man. Like, I just went to every real estate group I could go to. I found myself into some, pyramid scheme meetings, That stuff happens when you try and go out and network. But 1 out of 10 times, it's not really a terrible idea. You could even meet other people who are interested in what you do. Just by talking to people can make you a deal. You would never know that the guy at Walmart right next to you checking out the bags is looking to sell his property unless you're talking about real estate. So a lot of people in this field are like what they call as in the real estate agency world, secret agents, because a secret agent is a real estate licensee who doesn't talk about the fact that they're a real estate agent. And you're never going to make business if you don't talk about your business, because in real estate, like you say, your network is your net worth. So you want to talk to everybody about it.
Right. So just to recap, you spent 6 to 8 months working with this guy you met at a meeting, and you never did a deal. So would you say you had a little bit of a analysis paralysis? Like you knew what to do, you knew how to comp properties, he taught you all this stuff. How come you never did a deal?
I never did a deal. A lot of people don't do deals because of analysis paralysis. In that time, I didn't do a deal simply because I didn't do enough work. I was still 18, and I didn't really know what it was like to be an entrepreneur and actually have to work that as hard as you have to as an entrepreneur. I knew I had the mindset of one, and I knew I understood, numbers and how to make money, but I didn't want to put that much work in yet, because I still had my friends that I was hanging out with that weren't into the same things that I was into. So it was a lot harder to have like-minded people around me to show me how to actually do it. So I mean, the biggest issue was that I just didn't work hard enough.
All right. So you put this thing on pause. you went into the military, and towards the end of your career there, you started to get back on board with wholesaling, or did you take a different path in real estate investing?
It was actually about halfway through my career that I picked up wholesaling when I was qualified everything that I could qualify in my on my boat. My boat wasn't going anywhere, so I didn't want to waste my time in port. So I took up going to REI meetings, and that's when I found my mentor. For about another 6 months, I spent a lot of time learning again, and really learning new things that I never thought I knew, never thought I would need to know about the business. And I started reading books every week. I remember we were doing about 2 books a week, because when you look at the numbers, CEOs are reading what is it, a book a week?
Yeah, a book a week.
Yeah, a book a week. So I'm going to do what the billionaires and millionaires are doing. So I started doing that, and that changed my life. I got into everything. So it took me about 4 to 6 months again to learn stuff before I started actively trying again. And when I went out there, I spent about 4 months when I started looking hard for deals. Me and you started working together in some wholesale, in the wholesale market up there. And that's when we kind of got that one deal that was kind of under the table. And it was like, I didn't really take that as a real deal for myself. So that's the only deal I've ever somewhat done in the real estate game for wholesaling purposes.
Okay, so just to touch base on what Trey's saying here, about 2 years ago, me, Trey, and 2 other guys got into wholesaling. I'm not even sure how we came up with the idea, but we went at it full force, and we ended up getting a deal under contract. And for those of you who have been in partnerships before, it's very difficult to let more than one person steer the ship. So, we kind of went our separate ways, and, I went the wholesaling route. I've been wholesaling properties for about 2 years, done very, very well. I've been in 3 different markets. I'm currently wholesaling in Florida now, and Trey actually owns a student rental property in Virginia. Is that right?
Correct. So, yeah, I realized once wholesaling is a gig where if you get into it, you're going to be working from 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, even past that, and a big thing I realized is a lot of my lead generation I'd had to do from 6 in the morning to early in the afternoon, especially when the courthouses were closing before 4 o'clock. And with my work, I can only start work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because I show up at 6 in the morning and I don't get off till 5. And every 3 days, I'm at work 24 hours in a day.
What were you going to the courthouse for?
Courthouse is a great place to get lead generation done for pretty much. That's actually, I think, where we did that deal is from the probate section in the courthouse, which is so funny because the probate section, I remember the mentor that was helping me out, the probate leads are such a good place to go for leads that he wouldn't even teach me this part of the business because I was a big part of his business. So the thing is, we would go to the courthouse to get probate leads, divorce leads, you get tax delinquent leads, and you would call all these people up. And a lot of people think it's an immoral thing to do this, but what people don't realize is that a lot of people that are in these situations need to sell their homes, and they don't know what to do. Sometimes you have people who inherit homes and are sitting on the house and paying it for a long period of time because they live in Texas and their house is in Virginia and they don't know what to do with it. Well, people like us who are out there grinding and looking for all these people who have these names and who have these houses inherited and need to get them sold, we just send them a message and we'll say, hey, we're willing to take it off and we want to work with you, something that can help you. We want to help you, and in return, it will help us and it will help the investor that we can get for you. Right. So a lot of people are very iffy about the probate, especially because you're dealing on a touchy subject, but they need help as well sometimes.
Okay, so you're going to the courthouse, you're finding that you didn't have much time to pursue this type of wholesaling, which could be considering, it could be considered traditional methods, pulling lists, tax delinquent, probate, driving for dollars, stuff like that. you decided to go a different route, which was sourcing leads, finding investment properties to put your money in that way?
Yeah. So that's why, since everything happened between 6 to 5, the most important stuff for me, and me being 3-section duty, I realized that, you know what, like this, I had to swallow that pill and say, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work for what I do. And a lot of people that were in the investing world tried to tell me, like, no, you can do it. I understand people have excuses, but I knew that I can do it. I can, but there's a better option.
Right.
So I need to go with the better option. And I said, flipping, that's something I can maybe find a deal and I can have it worked on for a couple months and somebody can manage that deal while I'm at work, so wholesalers are so saturated that I was like, I can find a deal with wholesalers. I know you guys, so I can definitely find a deal. Now finding the lenders and all that stuff, I knew that was going to be easy as well. But shortly after thinking about getting into flipping, I read a book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. And like a week into that book, it changed my life. It made so much sense. It was just like when I first read about wholesaling. It made so much sense. There's so many ways to get rental properties without putting any money into it that I was like, wow, my entire time getting into real estate investing, my goal was to go from wholesaling to flipping to rentals because you need capital to get rentals. Well, you don't. So I found the way to get my first rental property literally, I think, a week later.
Okay, so this is a student rental property. So before I ask you how you source that lead, why student rental property in the first place?
Student rental properties next to Airbnbs are the highest cash flowing properties out there. Single family properties, sure, you got big commercial properties as well that make a lot of bucks, but single family student rentals, you could turn a single family that rents from $1,500 a month for the rent value and turn that into a $3,000 a month student rental. Simply because if you buy a 5-bedroom home next to a college for $230,000, your mortgage is roughly going to be anywhere from $1,300 to $1,700. And if you rent out per room to students who pay $14,000 a year sometimes to live on the dorms, they'd much rather pay half of that to live out, an actual house with their friends and have more space and have more freedom, kind of, have nobody checking up on them. And they're only paying $600 a room, which is half of what they'd be spending in the dorms. So it only makes sense for students to pay $600, to live with their roommates. They don't think about it by the house, but they think about it per room. So renting out a 5-bedroom, $600 a room, you're renting out for $3,000, and that home that typically rents out for $1,700 is now being rented out for that $3,000, and your mortgage stays the same. It's still a $1,300 mortgage. You're banking $1,700 minus the capex, But the point is, a lot of people think, well, students are going to tear up your property. It's a lot more risky. No, because if you do it smartly and you get their parents to co-sign, you make sure you pick good quality tenants, everybody's liable for the destruction of the property and their parents. Their down payment is typically pretty high as well. So everything's pretty much covered by your lease that you make with these tenants.
Okay, so this student rental property you have in Virginia, it's right around Old Dominion University. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you currently live in that property, right?
Not anymore. I started off house hacking, and that's what I think everybody should get into before they start renting it out if they've never known how to rent out a property. Because house hacking is the method you use to live for free. So I bought this property as a 5-bedroom, knowing that I still needed to, live off of the barracks. I couldn't work from the barracks anymore, so I wanted to live out of town. So I bought this house, and I lived in one of the units while renting out the other units. Well, I have 4 other bedrooms left, so obviously if I'm renting out, even if I rent it out for $300 a room, like who's not taking a bedroom for $300 a room? You could find anybody to rent out a bedroom for $300 a room. And if I did that, that's 300 times 4, that's $1,200. That pretty much covered my mortgage right there. But I can rent them out for $500 a room. So I was able to profit still while living. Well, not the point. When I first moved in, I actually just asked for just the mortgage because I didn't understand how much I could get away with, kind of. But it was a good way to live for free. So I house hacked the property. And when I decided to take the step into moving some renters in because it would secure my income and I can actually be certain that I won't, fall short on any bills or anything like that, I rented it all out to students.
Okay, so I mean, in regards to cash flow, having a student rental property seems like the way to go if you're looking for property that cash flows a large amount. How do you find something like that?
It's actually so easy to find a student rental. I'll tell you right now, I've been working with about 4 people in the past month and a half, and every one of those 4 people, it took me only a week to help them find a student rental.
They all 4 found a property?
Yeah, 2 of them are closing. One of them closes tomorrow, and another one closes in 2 days. One of them, we're house hacking right now. We're currently living in another rental right now, and he actually just listed it a couple days ago, and we're looking to get students into that one because then we're going to move to another one. And I'm going to look to pick up one in January, and another guy's looking to pick one up in January. And also, I have another friend who, the very first guy I helped out, it took him about 7 days to pick up a property. He had 6 bedrooms, and I think his mortgage is roughly like $1,700, but his total rent value when he leaves is like $3,200.
Wow. So tell us how you found yours, and then tell us how you're helping those other people, or how might somebody go about finding a student rental property for themselves?
Okay, so finding a student rental property, the cool thing about student rental properties is that you're looking for rooms. I always stick with at least 4 bedrooms, preferably 5. But you can honestly look on Zillow and look in your area for sale by owners or just anything listed for sale, because with a student rental you don't really have to think too much about, am I paying too much for it? You kind of, because you can pay more for a student rental. My house, I got it for about $240. I was willing to pay $280 for that because even at $280 the numbers work. My mortgage would have been higher, but because it's such a high cash flowing market and such a low vacancy market as well, like you can make the numbers work even if you pay $50,000 more than what your house is worth. You can pay over market value and still make good profit because you're renting out per room.
Right, so the cash flow is large there, but how did you find it? Like, how did you source that deal?
Zillow. I worked with an agent, and he sent me leads from the MLS, and he sent me one lead from the MLS, and I went to hop on it, and I was like, wow, this looks really good. It was an 8-bedroom, 5-bathroom, pretty decent shape house for $280,000. The cash flow on this after CapEx was about $1,800 a month. I was like, this is too good to be true. I sat on it for a couple hours. I was like, you know what? I'll just wait till I get back after, work, and I'll do some more research on it. And as soon as I got back, I was like, you know what? Forget this. I don't want to, get stuck in the analysis paralysis phase. So I called up the agent who was the listing agent. I said, hey, can I get this property under contract? I'll take it as is, And he said, oh, well, you just missed it. It just went on the under contract about 2 hours ago.
Just like that, gone, huh?
Just like that. The listing wasn't even up for a day, So it really showed me in that moment. I was like, when a good deal comes across, you can't spend time thinking about it. You have to know your numbers, because if you know it's a deal, it's going to get taken up within that day. You have so many investors in the area who are looking for deals every day. So you have to know your stuff when looking for a deal. And I knew it, but I wasn't confident because I've never done it. But when somebody bought it in that 2 hours, what that showed me is that I was right. Because I wasn't sure anybody else would take this house, but seeing that it went in 4 hours, it just made sense that, you know, an investor picked that up. No single family is moving into a 8-bedroom, 3-story home, you know, that's obviously being turned into a student rental. So what happened after that is that agent who listed that property, I was talking to him, I was like, oh, shoot, okay. He actually messaged me. He said, well, I do know some builders who are looking to build another student rental in the area, and they have a property that they want to sell that they just recently built because it's in the middle of the season, and they actually they had some legal issues with some of their tenants, and it caused them to miss the student season, so they didn't rent it out for that season. So they wanted to sell it and build another one, and it was in the November time frame. So if I bought it in November, it would give them the 3 months to build another one, I guess, or 4 months to build another one. And by the time they had it built, they'd be able to rent it out in the season. So he sent me that lead. I looked it over, did the numbers, and I did not make that same mistake. I said, I'll take it. And they were offering 280, and we did some negotiations from 220 to 260 to 240, and then we ended up closing on 240.
Wow. So you did some networking. You happened to get an agent who was shooting you leads. You missed an amazing opportunity that came across your lap. Another one came by, and you jumped on it. You got this property under contract. So for somebody who doesn't have an agent shooting them leads, let's say you're just new to this, you're like, wow, this sounds amazing. I really want to pick up a student rental. How else might you go about picking one of these up? Would you just recommend Zillow? Are you looking on Craigslist? Like, where do you find a student rental property if you don't have that connection?
Well, that is the first problem right there. If you're trying to get into real estate and you can't get an agent to send you leads, you have a serious issue to work on. Because I guarantee you, if you walk down the street and you talk to an agent for 30 seconds, he'll probably want to send you leads. So it's really easy. That's what you should do. You should go out there and find an agent to get you to send you leads. 1. 2, like I said, with the other guys that I helped find properties, I actually just used Zillow. You know, I looked for what was in the area. I looked for, 4-bedroom, 5 bedrooms, and I did the math. I did the analyzing. So before looking for a property, make sure you read how to analyze, like how to do repair costs, how to make your CapEx, and this is all in that rental property by Bigger Pockets book. Brandon Turner, he laid it out. It's a really good way to calculate all the numbers you need. And there's other books by them that are great, but just start by learning how to calculate the rent value, your CapEx, and there's so many free mortgage calculators out there that you can use to figure out what your mortgage might be. And so once you do that, it's as simple as just finding something on Zillow that makes sense.
Okay. Wow. So it sounds like student rental properties are the way to go if you're looking to acquire a property that has large cash flow. So before we get too deep in how you funded this deal, we're going to take a quick break here, and after we come back, we're going to talk about how Trey funded this deal and also an alternative if you don't have this option. So stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back. And just touching base off where we left off. So how did you fund this student rental property? If you're somebody who doesn't have access to money, you don't have cash out on the side, you can't get qualified for a loan, how do you fund this deal?
Okay, so there is actually a lot of good techniques to get a rental property pretty much for free. There's actually one technique that is really good where you can actually make a profit just by picking up a property. First, I want to say, though, that I know a lot of people out there listening are asking, why is this guy, telling us all this information? Wouldn't that create competition? And the fact is, a lot of people aren't teaching everything about this business because they're afraid of competition. I think with me, I enjoy spilling the beans, pretty much. I enjoy giving out the secrets, and I have many ways of making money. I'm not just in real estate. So I feel like I'm not afraid of the competition. It just causes me to work harder, and if you work harder, you make more money. So just wanted to clarify that before I get into explaining these great tips for picking up these rental properties. Such as the first one is for the military people out there that are listening to this. Everybody who's military listening to this should do this, especially even if you're planning to stay in for 20 years or especially 4 years, because if you're doing this for 20 years and you're looking to get out and have your pension and stuff like that, every duty station you go, use your VA loan to pick up a property. It's a 0 down loan, and you can keep doing it. You can have to 2 up at a time, and each time you need to use it again, refinance the first one into a conventional loan, and now you can use it again. So the VA loan was the way I funded my deal because it was so easy to get. And I was an E3. I didn't have any BAH. I didn't have any extra income, and I was pretty much just making that E3 pay, and I had a Camaro at the time, so I was spending about $600 a month on just my car.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's the typical military guy. Yep.
I had a Mustang.
Yeah, Mustang. You had a Mustang. Friend Dixon had a Mustang. I had a Camaro. I'm glad that was totaled because I got to get rid of my car payment.
All right. So you used the VA loan to fund the deal.
Yeah, I used the VA loan to fund the deal, so it took me about 30 days to close. The VA loan is the best loan to use because it's a government-backed loan. So that takes priority over pretty much every conventional loan you're getting or, FHA loan.
Okay, so this is for people who are in the military, right? Only people in the military can use a VA loan, correct?
Yeah, or has ties or got the benefits from like their parents or spouses like that. But yeah, pretty much you have to be in the military to get the VA loan. Now, don't let that discourage you because if I would have known this before I used my VA loan, I would have used the one that's accessible to everybody. And that's the first-time homebuyers loan.
Okay, so anybody can get this. Anybody who qualifies can get this loan.
Yeah, anybody who qualifies can get the first-time homebuyers loan. It's pretty much if you can prove income and you have a good enough credit, you will have a loan that is accessible to you. It's a home occupancy loan, so you're going to want to live in the property and house hack it. That's the whole plan. If you get a property, you can actually house hack it and still make it a home occupancy loan because you are living there. So yeah, that's pretty much accessible to everybody who can qualify.
Okay, so from my understanding, even if you have a bad credit score, I won't say bad, but let's say you have a decent credit score, you can still qualify for this loan, right? Maybe you have a really bad credit score. Let's say you're in the low 500s. You can still get qualified with a cosigner, right?
Yeah, you can get qualified for a cosigner. That's another thing. And that's why your net worth is your net worth. Now, with the VA loan, you can only have your spouse cosign for you. I think with the first-time homebuyers loan, you could have any family member cosign for you. I think that's what that is, or a conventional loan, even that. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't have the family to support you with that, you don't have the income or the money to prove to obtain the loan, what do you do next? There's other ways to get loans, and this is now coming into the realm of really investing in creative financing.
So you're saying if you can't get approved with the VA loan, or you don't have the ability to use the VA loan, and you can't get approved for the first-time homebuyers loan, there's another alternative?
Absolutely. There's actually plenty of alternatives. The main and best alternative, and this is going to require you to do a lot more research because you really want to know your numbers because nobody's going to lend you money if you don't know what you're doing. And it's crazy to think that there are people out there that would give a 18-year-old with zero credit and zero money $200,000 to flip a house but the reality is it happens all the time. And people just don't know about this. And you can get these loans from people called hard money lenders or even private money lenders. Hard money lenders are pretty much a group of investors that get together to make up pretty much a company where they finance other investors' flips and deals. A private money lender is just somebody you can meet by networking, who is sitting on a large amount of cash, who just wants to give out money to make a small return, but they don't feel like doing the work.
Okay, so these lenders, hard money lenders, private money lenders, are they looking at credit scores?
To my knowledge, every hard money lender I've worked with, no. I'm sure there might be some out there that do that, but they don't really care about your credit history as much as, does this deal make sense? Because in a BRRRR method strategy, which stands for buy, rehab, rent, and refinance.
And repeat.
In this method, you pretty much can find a house that is in a torn up shape, and you need to buy it for $100,000. The seller is selling for $100,000, and it needs $20,000 worth of work to make it into a $200,000 value home. In a perfect world, you'll find that deal. So you get the lending from the hard money lender. You bring him the numbers, you bring him what your contractor said he'll fix it up for, and the hard money lender will take a look at the deal and say, wow, well, I'm an investor in real estate, so I know that this makes sense. These numbers work, these comps are right. So yeah, I'll lend you the money because you're going to do all the work for me, and I'm going to get 12% back, 13% back. So it's a short-term loan for you to get the deal done. And then when you refinance with the bank, which you just went to the hard money lender and took out $120,000 to fund your deal with him, and he might ask for like a percent down, maybe 5%. There's some out there that I know that do 0% for a year-long loan term, which is amazing. But you'll get that deal funded through the hard money lender. 3 months time, you have the property fixed up. You have it rented out now. People are in there already renting your house. So you go to the bank and then you ask them to refinance into your name. And they'll look at your property value and they'll appraise the value at $200,000. And they'll give you about 80% of that value back. So you'll get a $160,000 loan. So all that money comes to you when you refinance. You'll get that because you're pretty much selling it to yourself. You'll get that $160,000, and your loan term is a 30-year fixed loan. It's like taking out another loan to the bank, and let's say your mortgage payment is $900, and you're renting it out for $1,200 to those current tenants. Well, now you take that $160,000 and you pay your hard money lender because you still owe him. He was just like a bank. He works like a bank. He can foreclose on you. So you pay him off $120,000. And now where's the other money? You have $40,000 difference. Well, guess what? You keep that. You keep that. That is your money. You can use whatever you want. You now have $40,000 cash. Your home is worth $200,000, so you have $40,000 in equity. You pretty much have $80,000. And if you have a VA loan, you can refinance that for the full amount, but I won't get into that. That's a whole different monster. But the thing is, you'll have $40,000 cash to now invest into so many more flips and deals and rentals.
Okay. So just to simplify that, let's say you find a property, right? Let's say you're the hard money lender. And I say, hey, man, I got this property. It's worth $200,000 after it's all fixed up, right? You got the comps laid out. The investor's looking at it, and you say, I need $100,000 to purchase the property, and it's going to need $20,000 to $30,000 in rehab. Let's say, $30,000. So you need $130,000 to buy and flip this property. When everything's said and done, you can sell it, you can resell it for $200,000. So the lender gives you $130,000. You fix it up in 3 months, let's say that. You put it on the market. It sits there for another month. You sell it for $200,000. You pay the lender back his $130,000, and now you're sitting with $70,000 in equity, in which you have the option to either leave it in the property or pull it out in a line of credit and use that money, that equity, and place it in another deal if you'd like?
Pretty much, yeah. So the way you explained it there kind of had... So the crazy thing about it is, in that situation, that's a perfect situation. Obviously, that's a really smoking deal right there.
Oh, very.
Yeah, it's not going to be as easy as just going down the street and finding that kind of deal. Typically, a lot of times with the BRRRR method, you might actually just make $5,000 back, but you now have a rental property. But in that situation, it's like, yeah, I can pretty much just sell this property and the hard money just fund my flip, but... So, yeah, in simple terms, yeah, you have all that equity that you can just use for another down payment. There's a thing called a home equity loan. And, personally, I haven't used it yet, obviously. But it's like if you have $40,000 in equity on a home that's being paid off, especially if it's a student rental, you're already making your money on the mortgage. You'll never have to pay for that house again if you keep it rented out. Never have to pay for that house. So you have $40,000 equity in that home. You don't even use that $40,000 cash that you have. That could be your money. You can use that equity as the down payment for another property.
Okay, so let's talk about an exit strategy, right? Let's say you go down the path of burning out this property, and you go to refinance with a conventional loan, and your credit's shit, and every single bank denies you. What do you do?
Well, that's the thing. They won't deny that. So the point of the refi is the BRRRR method is to get it rented out. Once you have it rented out and you can prove that income's there, I don't think you have another option. Say yes. Let's act like all the banks said no. It would make no sense to say no. To be honest, I actually don't know if they would say no.
It happens. They definitely there's a possibility that it would say no. I actually know a couple people where they've gone, down this path and didn't think about an exit strategy, and they end up, getting, backed into a corner. So this is where you would end up cashing out. You're no longer able to keep the property with the hopes of renting it out and cash flowing on it. But let's say you flip it, there's still a margin there. There's still a profit margin. If you can't get refinanced, you need an exit strategy, and that's something you have to consider before you're buying the property. So if there's $50,000 in equity and you can't get refinance, you have no choice but to sell it and pay that lender back. Because if you don't, like you said, they're going to foreclose on you. They're going to take that property all fixed up, and you're out of your money.
What's funny is I've never been, I know if I did the BRRRR method, I would easily be able to get approved for the refinance. So I never thought about it like that. But the problem with people when they're getting into investing, they find a roadblock like that. Since you told me, it was really as simple as just thinking it through. Well, yeah. Well, the thing about a BRRRR property is if you can refinance it, you can sell it. That's one exit strategy, is to just sell it. Be like, hey, you know what? I can't get the refi. I'm just going to sell it. The worst that happens is you break even or maybe lose a couple grand, but you're taking these chances for a reason. Another thing is another exit strategy that you can do is, like I said, there's private money lenders out there. There's all these LinkedIn's and Bigger Pockets podcasts, not podcasts, but they're Bigger Pockets forums. You can find people that are private money lenders that are willing to give you a long-term loan because, again, they're just sitting on their money. And they can see they use a little bit more logic than the banks do. The banks, you can have $300,000 in your bank account and be self-employed for the past 6 months and made this money in 3 months, and they won't give you a loan because you don't have a long enough history, and you have the money and the capital right here to pay for the house and more. So banks don't typically use that, common sense that a person can. So private money lenders are people that will just give you a loan. You sit with a lawyer, you come up with the terms. It might be a little bit more interest, depends on who you go to, but the point is that's another exit strategy.
Okay, so as far as funding these deals, we have a couple different options. You have the VA loan, you have the first-time home buyers loan, you have hard money lenders, you have private money lenders. So moving past that, in general, what would you say your biggest obstacle was throughout this process? Past the lending, past the sourcing deals, or maybe it was within those. What was the biggest obstacle, you say, and how do you recommend moving past that for those who are just getting into the game?
Easy. The biggest obstacle, I think you'll see a lot of people on YouTube talk about these big obstacles like funding, stuff like this. I've done many things with business, ventures and making money. And I'll say in every field, whether it's fitness, business, or health, just anything, the biggest issue that people face every day is the naysayers. Everybody has something to say, and everybody acts like they're right about something. Everybody wants to be right. So 90% of the people you surround yourself with don't know anything about real estate, but they want to know and they want to act like they know, so they'll tell you how risky it is. Because if they accept that it's that easy, like how I explained student rentals, it's as easy as finding a property on Zillow and going out there and asking for the VA loan and getting it, and now you're making an extra $1,200 a month. People been in the game for 20 years in the military don't even know you can take out 2 VA loans at the same time. No, and when you talk to people like that, it's like they don't want to accept that that's real, because then you've just wasted almost the past 20 years of your life not doing that. So they'll say anything and everything that's negative about the field, or just be like try and beat you down with the what ifs. So I'd say the biggest obstacle is the people you surround yourself with, or the people you are around, and not letting people tell you that things are hard and things are not what people say it is. You have to kind of look past the sheep mentality and be a wolf. You got to kind of go out there. You got to make the answers happen. You don't think, oh, I can't do this. Obviously somebody out there is doing it. Somebody out there came from a third world country and is making millions of dollars a week. Somebody out there, my biggest story is somebody out there, I watched this guy in college wrestling. He had no arms, no legs, and went to state. Don't tell me you have an excuse for not picking up a rental property when this guy can wrestle in 165 pounds with no arms and no legs. So people around you will cause you to come up with any excuse that you can make to not do something. So get out of the mindset of I can't, because that's what everybody will tell you, is that you can't, and start thinking like in Rich Dad Poor Dad says, how can I? Because as soon as you say I can't, your mind completely shuts off. You don't train your mind to work. Your brain stops working. When you try and figure out a solution, like if you think of how can I be a billionaire this year? Sure, you might not hit a billionaire, but you're thinking of all the steps to become a billionaire. So now you're going to try and do that. You're going to see that path. You're going to go on it, and you might make $1 million. You're still better off than 90% of the world.
So your biggest obstacle was the people you're surrounding yourself with. You changed your inner circle, and everything changed for you.
Yeah. So I think the first step was when I joined the military. I kind of separated myself from everybody back in my hometown, and it's like I love my friends. I love them all. They're all really great people. It's just, again, by me moving and getting out into now a group of people who are making more money by being in the military, because you make good money in the military. It's not like it's just the freedom now that you're trying to get back.
So looking back on it now, would you say any of the people that you cut out of your life, or your inner circle that you used to be in, did any of those people have you in their best interest? Were they looking out for you?
It's hard to say that if anybody actually really cares about, how well I do. It could just, I'm huge into psychology. I actually look into the darkest parts of the human mind. I love to explore the way people think, and I don't like to, sugarcoat stuff, and I don't like to act like everything's, peaches and rainbows. When people are supporting me, I understand that some people, might just be supporting me simply because they want me to stick around, So it's really hard to know if somebody's actually ever there just for you. Me, I know I'm there for a lot of people, a big time for them. Like, I do this for free. I don't ask a dime for people. But then again, even in the deepest part of my mind, I know it's going to come back to me. So it's kind of a self-interest as well. You know, it makes me feel good to teach people. And I know that if I teach people to become successful, it's going to come around. So to say people have I'm in their best interest. Yeah, I got some family members. You know, I got some friends. Everybody I surrounded myself with in all my work environments, no. They would tell me it's not gonna work. They would tell me anything to say, like, to pretty much make me think that I should stay or re-enlist or pretty much anything to keep me from going to my goal.
Okay. All right. Wow. So it sounds like knowing who's in your inner circle is crucial to growing and scaling your business, as well as your mindset, because your mindset is extremely important, especially in any field where you're an entrepreneur. Your mindset is probably the number one thing that's going to propel you forward. So, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about real estate courses, because I know that's a pretty touchy subject. People have a lot of opinions on real estate courses, so we're going to dive into that.
Oh, I'm going to piss people off with that one.
All right, guys, we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. So now we're going to get into real estate courses. This is a touchy subject. Some people think courses are a complete waste of time. You know, people are out there selling courses for $10,000 to $20,000. Meanwhile, you got wholesaletreasurebox.com that has $20 a month, an absolute perfect value. So what do you think about real estate courses?
Man, what's funny is I think that real estate courses, if you believe that you need a course to learn real estate, you are just dead wrong. Dead wrong. There's one time, I will accept somebody getting a course and just be like, okay, that makes sense. Because if somebody just wants to take the knowledge from one person and just get it in a very quick way. My thing is, you'll never really find everything you need in just a course, but everything out there is for free. Everything you need, especially in the real estate field. When it comes to other fields, like I learned how to do Seller Central, Amazon FBA, and I've done card counting, with blackjack. These things, I took a course and they actually had a value because I didn't have to search through a bunch of bull. I didn't have to go digging in the darkest parts of the internet to find the information, because it's not as relevant as real estate. Real estate is such a huge thing that it's everywhere. Everybody's giving out this information for free. You'll get more out of this podcast that we're on right now in this one podcast that you're watching about student rentals probably than you will from a course, because a lot of people, 90% of people that are making courses are out there just to take your money. So they're here to pretty much sell you on a mini course, get you to buy the bigger course, and then the next course. And then they don't even teach you exactly what you need to be great. Mentors and books is all you need. And these are both, mentors can be free. Like I said, every mentor I've had, I just walked up to them and asked, hey, can you teach me? And they were actually doing it. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're teaching me, because guess what? If somebody in real estate is teaching you how to make money, like I said before about self-interest, is it comes around. If you're a flipper and you're teaching me how to wholesale, he just made a very loyal network of people who are now wholesaling for him just by teaching wholesaling to people who want to get into it. So I'll always go to you if you taught me how to wholesale, because I feel like I, one, owe you that, and two, because I like you, because you worked with me.
Right. So courses are a no-go for you, and I've never taken a course either. Everything that I've learned is from networking, it's from YouTube, it's from watching people on Instagram, it's from surrounding myself with people who have already done it. So I've never paid for a course, But let's say you find this badass course and it's $20. What would you say about that?
Badass course that's $20. That's funny. So here's the thing. I say I would never, when I talk about courses and them being absurd, the reason I say is people spend $10,000 or $20,000 on a course. I think that's absurd. $20,000 is the most I've ever heard of somebody spending on a course for real estate. And they did not get near, like they're wholesaling and they're being taught to talk to agents. Like that is not the way to go about wholesaling. Maybe, I don't know. Do you talk to agents though?
Oh yeah, I have. I think having agents on the tool belt can be extremely valuable, especially as a wholesaler. You can get realtor referrals, although they're not that much money. Having connections with agents can be important. Having unlicensed MLS access, or having you being unlicensed assistant for MLS access. Deals that aren't quite deals for wholesalers, don't quite fit the mold for a cash deal, say, hey, do you mind if I pass this information along to a realtor? You send it along to a realtor, they put it on a contract. For an example, and this doesn't happen often, but when I was in the New Hampshire market, I got in contact with a seller who happened to have a $3.5 million property in Hampton. And the fee for me out of that was a couple $1,000s for just saying, hey, I want to pass this info along. And, if they get it under contract, put it on the market, sell it, I get a fee. But as far as wholesaling goes, I would say, having an agent is valuable, but it's definitely not the first place you should go.
Yeah, what I mean is you don't go to agents to look for deals.
No.
That's what I mean. And that's what they're teaching. To go to agents, like go on to Zillow or go on to realtor.com, look at listings and ask them to make a wholesale deal. You're trying to talk to an agent about making a split commission when they're already going to make that split commission.
Well, the only way it's not even wholesaling at that point. Maybe you can consider it wholesaling. The only way to wholesale a deal off the MLS would be to close on a property yourself, take ownership of it, and then resell it again. So you're actually closing on a property with your own money, whereas wholesaling, you never take ownership of the property. You get a purchase and sale contract with the rights to assign, and then the investor comes in with the cash and closes on the property. You get the difference between the sale price and the purchase price.
Well, yeah, you see how crazy this conversation is. So, it obviously working with agents as a wholesale is very, it's very rare that you're going to find one. And two, it's not technically like wholesaling when you do, it's not really, sometimes it's not, so the whole thing with it is when you got courses teaching you this kind of knowledge, man, it's just bullshit. It's messed up. They're taking advantage of people because people want to get in real estate, and sometimes people are in a place where they have very little time to do it and just enough money to hopefully make it through the first 6 months. So they'll put everything they can into it and realize that it was a bad idea. So my thing with courses is I would never spend more than, I'd say, $5,000 on a course. I think there's some courses out there that are helpful, and I think most of them are less than $5,000 because I can see when somebody who wants to teach and contributes like hours and hours and hours of content on their course, they want to get paid out at least somewhat. They've spent a lot of time putting this information together. So a couple $1,000s is not much to ask for great freaking content. Like, I've done it myself. Like I said, I've gone to other courses with other fields and they were great. So my thing is, do your research on courses, do the research on the course you are about to get, and when you do it, still be looking in all the free parts of the system. The books are going to be one of the most helpful. And if you can get a mentor that is doing it, that is going to be, I think, your best bet right there. But with, like I said, with courses, it's just, you don't need them though. You don't need them.
Okay. All right, so for those of you listening, we're not saying don't buy a course, look into courses. Look into them deep. Do your research, and do more research on top of that. It could be very useful for you, but be aware of the people who are trying to make you spend $10,000 to $20,000 in these courses when in reality the information is probably out there for free, or you could have been taught from somebody for much, much, much less money. So, moving past that, this is. You have something?
Actually, I'm saying don't buy a course. I'm saying don't buy a course. But if you already bought a course, it doesn't mean you're in the you're out of luck. It just means, like, I'm just saying don't buy a course. Do all the research you can, and if you can't do it yourself, then buy a course. But even if you spent $20,000, my look on this, I want to say this before we move on, is get this, people. In real estate, you can make hundreds of thousands a month. You could, and let's be real. Like, a lot of people are making a couple $100,000 a year in real estate, not that much a month. There is a lot of people making millions of dollars a month. You can have the biggest range of income. You could make $5,000 a month to millions a month, and putting $20,000 into a course that's going to teach you how to do this, it's far better than putting $100,000 to $200,000 into a school that's going to teach you a trade or get you a degree that 80% of people don't even ever use. And people look at putting tens of thousands of dollars into courses or mentors to teach them this field is so absurd. But is it really? Because that's what everybody's doing. It's just not looked at as bad when it comes to college, But as soon as you put $5,000 into a mentor, everybody around you is going to be like, he's scamming you. So don't be afraid to, get the course if you need it. But I just say you don't need it.
Do your research.
Do your research.
All right. So moving on, and this is a bit off topic, and we'll be rounding up here soon. Trey actually got out here for free. He flew from Virginia for free. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. How did you do that?
Okay, so yeah, that is actually something. I'm going to be making videos as well on YouTube content here shortly about, all this stuff, credit card churning, fitness, real estate, Amazon, everything. So the way I got out here for free is pretty much the same way I'm going to go to Italy for free, Hawaii for free. And I learned this method about 5-6 months ago. And, again, it was the mindset of this makes sense. I'm not going to question it, especially for people getting into real estate. This is a great way to travel and get things for free, get cards, rentals, hotels, all this stuff. Because credit card churning is a method pretty much where let's say the Southwest card, you can, let's say a card offers you 60,000 rewards points after you spend $2,000 within 3 months. Now, that's very attractive to a lot of people. They end up getting the card and they spend, money, they go shopping, whatever, just to get that 60,000 points. Because the 60,000 rewards points could almost be equivalent to pretty much going from one side of the country to the other in a paid round trip. And you can also get a hotel stay. So people are just going to get the card and start, spending it. The problem with that is the credit cards are going to make their money back. The interest is going to kill you. So when you get these credit cards, though, there's 1% of people who use credit cards that actually make money through credit cards. That's by credit card churning. So my first experience, I got a card, and the amount to spend on it was $4,000 in 3 months. Now, that's a lot for what I was doing. But since I was getting into Amazon, I could put all the shipping fees, the product manufacturing on this card. So I put all of this on my card, and within like the first month and a half, I had spent the $4,000. I already had the $4,000 I would have spent on that anyway in my separate bank account. And once I spent that, every month before the statement came out, I'd make sure the balance was zero. I'd paid off everything. So as soon as I made that $4,000 through the credit card spending, I got my rewards points. Bam, I had 60,000 rewards points. So then I just never used that card again.
So you spent $4,000 and you got 60,000 points back.
Yeah, and that pretty much, and you know what's funny is that's not even the one I used to come out here. One of them, the one I used to come out here, here's how I got out here for free. And this is through a card, a very good card out there that everybody should get because it's a lot easier than the $4,000 limit. It only required me to spend $1,000 in 3 months. That's cake for everybody. And at the time, they gave me about, I want to say, 40,000 rewards points. So I got 40,000 rewards points, and it cost me about 28,000 rewards points to get from Virginia down to Florida and back during the holidays.
All right, so I'm confused because I don't know shit about credit card hacking, credit card churning. You spent $4,000 to get 60,000 points. It would never cost you $4,000 to get here. So where's the win there?
Well, the win there is that like I said, act like I don't have a credit card. Act like I don't have a credit card right now. I'm still going to get my Amazon product, correct? It's going to cost me, it cost me about $5,000 for my whole inventory. Well, I can give the manufacturer my money, or I can give them my credit card, get those points, and I just take that money and put it on the credit card and pay off the balance. Because no matter what, that $5,000 is gone.
So for people who are not...
It's like a transitioning.
Right, so for people who aren't in Amazon business, you're saying put stuff like bills, like your car payment, your electricity, like stuff. Can you put that stuff on a credit card?
Yeah. So that's another thing. The biggest thing, if you can get this, there's some apps out there. There's a guy named Steph Graham, and this is where I actually found this information. He has a YouTube page. He's a real estate agent. He talks about real estate and making money, and he's like one of the biggest, known guys on YouTube for the real estate portion. He talked about it, and there's some apps or some services out there where you can actually pay this service through credit cards to pay your mortgage, because a lot of mortgage companies don't accept credit use for payments. So there's ways to use your credit card payment, your mortgage payment as a credit card, which typically it could be like $1,500. So that's 2 months. You've made $3,000, and you're still within that 3 months just by your mortgage payment. Then you have your car payment. You could do that with credit card. You could pay your friend's car note on your credit card. Right. They give you the money, maybe, I don't know the legalities on that, but I can say you can do that technically to boost your stuff. I don't need to do that because I spend so much money in other fields, but you can pay anything with your credit card pretty much if you look for the ways to do it, especially even your mortgage payment. Okay,
so these points, you happen to use yours to book a flight here. You got here for free. What else can you use the points for?
So you can use them for pretty much traveling. You can use them for rentals. So if you go...
Like car rentals?
Yeah, so if I wanted to pick up a rental while I was down here, if you didn't have a car, I can... pick up a rental. If I wanted to drive around by myself, I could have they actually asked me, they're like, you want a rental? I was like, oh, no, I'm good. I don't need it, But you can also get cruise tickets. Some companies will pay for, like, say you want to go to a cruise to Bahamas, they'll pay for your cruises. You can also get concert tickets, VIP. You get a lot of stuff, man. You can actually trade it in for cash. From what I know right now, it's not really worth it to trade it in for cash, because say you have like $500 cash back, that's almost like the equivalent of $1,500 in travel. So it's actually, you get more for traveling than cash back. But if you need the cash really quick, and you have 500,000 points racked up, you got like $5,000 right there.
Wow, so this is for people who qualify for credit cards. So you gotta have somewhat decent credit to be able to do this, right?
So that's another thing. I wouldn't, I don't know the exact, how much you need. There's a lot of credit cards out there that have easier approval rates. So yeah, I mean, if you have like a 400 credit score, you might not get there. But this is for the average person. Most people have credit cards. So if you're gonna have a credit card, do it smartly. The thing about it is that what people also don't realize, if you take out credit cards, that takes hits on your credit score. or that you're pretty much shortening your credit history, so it's going to balance out and make your credit less. Yeah, in the short term. But in the long term, say you have one credit card for $10,000 and you have $5,000 on that main credit card that you use. And say you apply for a Southwest card or something and they give you $10,000 of credit. Well, we all know that if you're, well, maybe you don't know, but if you didn't, if you're above 30% of your total allowed credit used, it's a negative hit to your credit. So every month you're above that percentage, you get a negative tick mark or whatever it is. So that's if you're at 10,000 allowed. You have one credit card and it allows you 10,000 usage and you've used 5. As soon as you take out that Southwest card and you get approved for like 10,000, you're now at 25%. People think that they care about the one individual credit. No, they look at your total allowed. That's what they care about. Like, you can have a credit card maxed out and have 5 other credit cards that give you 10,000 and they'll be like, you're still under 30%. That's good. And people are like, oh, you still need some credit. And that's what they like. No, they just like to see you use the least amount of what you're allowed. So if you're at 50,000 allowed and you're using $0, they're happy with that. That's still good. It's a big misconception saying that if you need credit to also build credit. No, you just need to have that allowed go up. So by taking out more cards, you increase your allowed amount and decrease your percentage of usage. So in the short term, you might take some hits, but now it's building your credit long term because now you have more allowed, and you keep like 3 of your cards open for a long time, and you could shut off the other ones just so you can keep your history up as well.
Wow, so, I mean, yeah, this is definitely something I know nothing about, and it sounds pretty interesting. I'd definitely like to look into it more. So when you put out that content, definitely let us know. Trey, I want to thank you so much for coming out here. As I said before, guys, this is Wholesale Treasure Box's first podcast. I hope for those of you who are listening, you learned something. We talked about student rentals, how we funded the deal, alternative funding methods. I mean, we covered a good amount of stuff. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Thank you again for coming out, guys. It's wholesaletreasurebox.com. If you want to listen for more, get on the site, get on our Facebook, check out the Instagram. We have a YouTube page as well. And thank you again for listening.